In-laws. I am often asked about how to deal with in-laws, and I feel you. In-laws can be a whole subject area when it comes to your marriage alone. And I want to give you some help with this. It's a difficult area because you want your family members to be involved in your lives. Usually they're aunties and uncles and grandmas and granddads. But where do you draw the line in terms of how involved they can be? That's what we're going to talk about today. Before we go ahead, if you enjoy the content so far, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and definitely hit the notification button so that every time I drop a video, you are going to be notified. Right, in-laws. Like I said before, they're an important part of the family, particularly in certain cultures. I'm a British-born Nigerian, married to a Malawi-born Malawian, and in our African culture, family is super important, but that family includes the extended family. And the same with many cultures across board. But sometimes there's a line that can be crossed that can really cause major issues in the one-on-one relationship between man and wife. And I think that that's the first thing to remember, is that when it's all said and done, it's about you too. Not even your children, not your mum, not your dad, not your auntie, uncles, sisters, whatever. When it's all said and done, it's about you too. And there needs to be a hedge of protection, right? There needs to be a ceiling around this core union that you guys have. And sometimes with having the doors open enough for family members to feel comfortable enough to come in and sharing this beautiful unit that you guys are creating, sometimes those lines can be crossed and people feel that they can speak into or get involved in areas of the union that aren't really anything to do with them. So I guess that leads me up into the first thing that I want you guys to be aware of. Those boundaries need to be set, and they need to be set nice and early. But before you can set any boundaries, you need to be clear on them yourselves. As in, have you and your partner really sat down and spoken about what you both think is too much or too little in terms of involvement from family members? You may have different ideas on this. One of you might be happy with, your mum just barging into the house, not having to knock or not having to call before she enters. Whereas the other, your partner might find that that's a step too far and overstepping a boundary. Maybe he or she wants the phone call before, family members come over. You guys need to talk about that, because what might be a boundary for hubby or an overstep of the boundary for hubby may not be for wifey. So the first place to start is to talk. And even if you guys have been married for a long time, as long as this is an issue for you, this is the place to start. Have the conversation. Number two, you guys have to be brave enough to communicate and evidence this boundary. And if you have been married for a while and people have been used to dealing with you in a certain way, it is going to be difficult, and they may receive it in a negative way when you start putting in these boundaries, when you start communicating your boundaries and actually evidencing them. So when I say evidencing them, I mean actually saying, hey mom, next time you're coming, can you be sure to give us a phone call before you actually step into the house, okay? Before you actually leave your house and come to ours. Like, really let it be known that these are the boundaries now. Hey, next time we're doing this, can you guys make sure that you don't do that? Like, really making it known. People don't like change. So if you are newly married, great. Set these boundaries nice and early. People will naturally adjust to them. They will get it. Even if they feel a little bit uncomfortable by it, they will soon get with the program. If you've been married for a while, be prepared for a negative reaction at first. But it's only at first. Here's the great thing about boundaries and principles. Once they are set, people don't like it because they don't like to adjust. But after that, they respect it as long as you keep respecting it. And that's the third thing. Respect the boundaries that you have set. You have to honor them before you expect anybody else to honor them. But honestly, once you do honor your boundaries, people will follow suit. They absolutely will. And you know what? That's what having a mature relationship is about. That is what evidences to your parents and other members of your family that actually I have started off my own family now. I am the head of this home, or I am the queen of this house, and this is how we run things. And anybody that wants to be involved in this unit that we're creating has to abide by and honor our boundaries. So the other thing that I want to say about this is that you, as the partner with the family members, it's really important that you are not the person who stands in between. You don't need to stand in between them. You stand with your partner, you stand with your spouse. And it's really important that you show that united front, that your partner isn't having to fight for your attention or is left to feel like they're having to compete with your family. That shouldn't be there. That should be non-existent. Your family really should get the message loud and clear from you that your spouse, your partner, is your top priority. It's really important to know that you have left your mom, your dad, and you have now cleaved, come together with your partner. That needs to be a distinctive, different relationship. You should have felt that shift and you should honor that transition, right? And honor it in a way that your family members really recognize that this change has happened. That is going to be the best way to keep the peace and love in your home, whilst making sure that your family members know that they are still honored, but that you have these boundaries now that you set for your own home that they now also have to honor. And that places everybody in their right positions. Everybody can stay in their lane and know how to handle you guys. That's going to give you peace all round. And the last thing that I want to say about this is that if you are having problems with your in-laws, it's the person whose parent that is causing the problem that has to really deal with it. For example, if it was in my marriage, or when it was actually in my marriage, I was the person that had to set that boundary with my parents. It's my parents, so I'm the one that's going to speak to them about it. I'm the one that's going to be really clear and set that boundary. It's not going to be the in-law that's going to do that. No, they're my parents. I'm probably the one that's opening the doors and allowing them in, giving them too much space. So I'm going to be the one that sort of deals with any negativity or any miscommunication there and really clear that up. If it was the other side, it would be my husband that does that. So you have to take responsibility if it's your parents or family members that are really causing the problems. You deal with it. Don't put it on your partner to do that. And I know I said lastly, but something else just occurred to me, is that if you are the in-law, really, it can be a difficult place for you to be, but I would suggest that you're always reflecting an attitude of being open, of being welcoming, of being kind, empathetic, and courteous, and allowing your partner to deal with any sort of really heavy, difficult conversations in terms of boundaries with them, and you stick alongside your partner on that. You are not going to be the person that's going back and forth and having, these really hard, heavy conversations with your in-laws. You're always going to be the one that's open and welcoming. You're always going to show yourself to be, hey, I want you here. I want you to be a part of this family. But before them, you always stand together as a unit. Let me know in the comments, have in-laws been a challenge for you, and do you have any tips on what you did to handle it? It's a Daisy Chuako, your marriage and relationship coach, and I'll see you in the next video.